Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our second candidate forum for City Council. I hope many of you were able to join us last week for the Ward Candidate Forum. Tonight, we are honored to talk with candidates who are running for council for Ward 2. This is a great opportunity that we're going to have a conversation with them about the issues that I know we're all interested in. I'm going to remind everybody now, before we get too far down the road, but just as a gentle reminder, the election is February the 9th. You can do early in-person voting on February the 4th or the 5th at the county election board at their offices there at the county fairgrounds. It'll be on the county fairgrounds. It'll either be in their office or in the fairgrounds buildings, but easy to get to. I highly recommend that option. Or you have until February the 2nd to request an absentee ballot. Another great option. So absentee, in-person absentee, or in-person on the day of the election, but make sure you get out and vote. Like I said last week, there's very few barriers to voting, but one thing that I think is really important is to be an educated voter, and that's why we've presented this platform tonight to kind of talk about the issues. I want to welcome my co-host, Tyler McManaman. Tyler, joining us tonight. We appreciate you and Norman Next co-hosting.
Well, thank you. Yeah, Norman Next is just an organization, a part of the chamber for young professionals that want to live, work, and play in Norman. Ages 21 to 40. So if anyone is interested in joining, please reach out through our Facebook page where we'll also be posting this video, and we'd love to make Norman the best town it can be.
Thank you, Tyler. As a reminder there, this video is live on the Chamber's Facebook page, Nexus Facebook page, then we are recording this. So you'll be able to find the video on either of our Facebook pages or on our YouTube channel. So if you weren't able to catch it now or you wanted to share this with somebody after the fact, please go to those venues to watch and listen. Well, let's dig into questions. And I so appreciate John Argo, Jay Wendorff, and Matt McGarry for joining us tonight. Appreciate their willingness to serve our city on city council and being with us this evening. What I'm going to do, we're going to rotate through these questions the best that we can, and we're going to move them around so not everybody has to answer the question first, but just based on my screen, John, we're going to start with you for the very first question. So here you go. And then I'm going to let Tyler answer the one once everybody gets a chance to answer this. Okay, so John, if elected, what are your top priorities for the city at large in your ward specifically?
Well, my number one thing for the Ward 2, which I'm running in, is we're business oriented over there. You know, we're kind of the face of Norman. We have 4 exits coming off of the 7 exits from I-35. So we're kind of the face of Norman. So I'm trying to keep all the businesses open. I don't want anything boarded up. I want what Norman people see coming off the interstate is a nice business friendly environment. And plus it's perfect for the people that live here. The recent ice storms have caused a lot of tree damage, and I hope we can do something with that with the forestry department. And I've already talked to the transcript about doing an article with what type of trees to replace them with, you know, and what you can buy, you know, what's the best thing to replace that doesn't break, you know, because I had a lot come down too. I had to come down in the storm and in the ice storm. So I've been fighting this since July. And then probably I'd be remiss in trouble if I didn't say something about the traffic at the middle schools. You know, if you come down Brooks at about 2:35, 2:40, 3 o'clock, whatever, and my wife had to ride through 3 stoplights just to turn because, you know, the picking it up is just such a traffic problem. And I just, you know, I was talking to Mr. Dow. He owns some property over there behind by O'Reilly's and between Charleston that backs up to Whittier, that you might be able to put a separate parking lot back in there and stuff. And then I got to thinking, just for the economics of it and the timing, why not just have an extra school bus that loads 40 kids and takes them up to, you know, like Hobby Lobby, and then, you know, out of Alcott, it could take them down to Homeland Shopping Center, and your parents meet you there. I mean, they do it up in Tulsa at my grandkids' school. So why couldn't we leave 40 kids at least out of this line, parents, if you got 40 cars, that helps, maybe we do 2 buses. But, if there's something that we can do, and I mean, I'm not the smartest guy in the book on this, but I know there's a traffic jam there and it's a problem. So if we could do something simple like that, that's a start. And so that's my take.
Okay. And I didn't mention to begin with, but like last week, we've got yellow and red cards. We've got to answer these questions. So this is a 15-second warning, and this is when time's expired. So, John, you went within the 2 minutes.
We beat it.
I was fired up.
You 2 yellows and 1 red.
Sometimes.
We're going to go by alphabetically last name. So Matt, you're up next. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I got it. Thank you very much. The reason why I want to run to represent Ward 2 on City Council is because I want to. Norman is one of the most. Let me start that over. Norman has one of the greatest populations in the state of Oklahoma, and I think we need to be able to take advantage of that. Ward 2 has one of the largest residential and commercial footprints in the city. And what I want to do is I want to focus on development in core Norman. And I want to help us resist the cannibalization of our local commercial areas that in recent years have been severely hit even before COVID. And I want to focus on ways that are going to help us rebuild, sustain, and develop those core areas here in Norman, especially along the Lindsay corridor, which I agree with John there. I mean, it is the gateway to Norman, especially off of 35. And it is an area that has been long neglected. And I think it's prime for reinvestment that will be serviced by both local residents and people coming in for senior football games and other events supported by the university.
Very good, Matt. Thank you so much. Jay, now to you to answer the same question.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. The thing that jumped out to me almost immediately when you said when you posed that question is, as I've been knocking on doors in Ward 2, the thing that people are asking me the most all the time, before I can even finish my spiel about who I am and how long I've lived here, is, are you a socialist or did you storm the Capitol? These are the things people want to know. They don't want to talk about stormwater or tree canopies. They want to know, are you radical? Which lets you know that there is a divide in this city that is very sad, and it's very hot, and it's on a hair trigger, it seems. And, this is Ward 2 related, but this is city related, is that people need to come together. We need unity in this city. We're not going to be able to do anything, finish any project, move a direction that's healthy and helpful for business or the police or people that feel marginalized in this community, without unity and letting every voice be heard. That's the thing that's most, that's a general statement, but that's the thing that jumps out at me the most when I'm talking to people in Ward 2.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Tyler's got the next question.
All right, thanks, y'all. So question number 2, I'm going to start, Matt, with you. So describe your philosophy with regards to economic development, i.e. job retention and expansion.
Sure. Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate that. I'll put this break this into 2 parts. Okay. In terms of economic development, I think that, first, as I mentioned in my opening, that Norman has the means and resources. We have to utilize the means and resources that we already have. I think there's a lot of focus on bringing in big box stores and other things like that into Norman. Those are already there and they serve a very important function, and they're not going anywhere, nor should they go anywhere. What I want to focus, though, is on local organic growth. And that utilizes all the things that Norman already has. Norman is home to the flagship university of the state. We have a highly educated, dynamic population that's innovative and creative. Let's empower these people to unleash their imaginations and realize their projects. And one way that I think we can really do this, and I think of this as really like low-hanging fruit, let's make the permitting process easier. You know, one thing that I would like to do is to see a way to maybe creating what we could call a developmental concierge, okay, that could help walk young entrepreneurs, businessmen, people who have new ideas through the permitting process, which right now, I think we all know, regardless of which business you work in, takes a long time to get through. Let's create let's create a position of development concierge, somebody who can, or an office that can make the process as transparent, as painless as possible, so that people know when they have an idea, they can check off the boxes, and when they bring it up, they already are fairly certain that it's going to be stamped for approval.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Jay.
Tyler, could you say the question again, please?
Absolutely. So please describe your philosophy with regards to economic development, i.e. retention and expansion.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I certainly have thoughts on how difficult it is to get zoning and permits and connection fees and all those kinds of things if you want to build in Norman or you want to start a business in Norman. That's certainly an issue, but as far as my general posture toward that, it would be, I really feel like if you talk to any business person in Norman, they would say that Norman has become less business friendly, and that we, unlike Moore, I was talking to a friend who's on the fire department in Moore, and he was talking about their business development officer who is chasing after businesses to come settle in Moore. Great business partners like Costco. If you talk to anybody, I don't care if you're on the right, on the left, in the middle, if you tell someone, hey, the Warren Theater wanted to be in Moore, or Dick's Sporting Goods wanted to be in Norman, or Dick's Sporting Goods wanted to be in Norman, or Costco wanted to be in Norman, but they all ended up in Moore, people would say, are you kidding me? Why? And it would have to do with the barriers to enter Norman are high with permitting, zoning, and I think possibly even our general posture toward business partners we are not pursuing them. And when they pursue us, it's difficult for them. And if it takes too long, they find somewhere else to go. So I would like to see that attitude and culture change.
Okay, thank you, Dre. John, would you like me to repeat the question?
Go ahead.
Okay. Please describe your philosophy with regards to economic development, i.e. job retention and expansion.
I work with a lot of people that do start up businesses in Norman, different between restaurants and all kinds of other businesses. And whether it's in an existing building, a new building, remodeling the old building, whatever, so I've seen all phases of it, and they're both right. It needs to be streamlined and it needs to be more friendly, or we're going to have a problem. But as far as job retention too, we need to figure out a way to, the quality of life has a lot to do with that too. Business will get up and move, and if it doesn't feel like there's good quality of life for its employees and future employees. And another thing we might grasp onto is I used to do work for different people, and up there by GM, when it was in, there was a company that did all the dashboards for GM cars, and they moved right across the street, and we put that in across the street from GM. They had a new dashboard for every car and had an assembly line that was ready every time the car was ready. So they couldn't be ahead of time. They had to be exactly on time. So they had to be right there next to it. So we need to take companies that we have here and see if we can get into their suppliers to come in here locally and help support them, whoever it is. That's me. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Scott.
Okay, for our next question, Jay, this is going to begin with you. Do you believe that Norman is experiencing a long-term problem with sales tax revenue? If yes, how do you propose to fix the problem? If no, why not?
As far as long-term goes, I mean, I couldn't say that I've been following Norman politics for, so I don't know about how long we're talking about back, but I think that it can be fixed, and we certainly are experiencing a sales tax problem. As we all know, the city runs on sales tax. If you want to build a senior center, or you want to build a homeless shelter, or whatever it is, you need sales tax dollars to help do that. And like I said before, Costco, from what I understand, would have provided $4.5 to $5 million in sales tax. And when it wasn't decided not to come here and went to more, it's going to take further sales tax dollars from people who are in Norman, who would have spent that money in Norman, but are now going to go spend that money in more, another $2 million or whatever. And, I think that we can find win-wins for Norman. I think we can find win-win solutions for attracting big stores like that everybody wants here, while also supporting our local businesses. And I think being a business-friendly town would provide the solution for that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
John, the same question to you. Do you believe that Norman is experiencing a long-term problem with sales tax revenue? If yes, how do you propose to fix the problem? If no, why not?
I don't think it's long term. I mean, we're always going to need more money, and there's always ways, to increase the sales tax. And I'm all for. I'd rather have more sales tax coming in than raise the rate. I don't think that's a good system. So, as far as bringing different companies in to do more, the large companies I haven't experienced, going out headhunting and trying to get big companies in and stuff like that. So that's more of the chambers, group, trying to get people in like that. But it has to be business friendly, and you got to have the amenities that they want to, they want to have, like the soccer fields. They want to have stuff to raise their family, good schools and stuff like that. So as far as the sales tax, I would try to open as many businesses, keep as many businesses open as we can, and keep those going by being more business friendly.
Okay, thank you. Matt, question to you.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer the question just a little bit differently. I'm just going to take a slightly different tack. And I just think that, first of all, let me just say that up until COVID, I think that, the tax revenues were, broadly speaking, not a problem. They were up. They could still, sales tax revenues, we could always have used more, and that requires us to think a little bit differently about things. I think in particular, pre-COVID, post-COVID, we really need to think critically about how we use TIFs, tax increment financing. And in recent years, TIFs have gotten a pretty bad reputation for a variety of reasons. But TIFs are tools, and tools like a hammer, they don't really have any innate value. It depends on how you use them. And the idea, I think TIFs can be, and this gets to what I think John was talking about a little bit, one way to create a business-friendly structure or environment for Norman is by investing in infrastructure projects and in quality of life projects that want to keep that make it so that people want to be here. Broadly speaking, I think we want to bring in more revenue. We don't want to raise sales taxes because that's a regressive tax. But I think we have to also think a little bit realistically about why is it that lots of places go where they do. Retail follows demand, right? And as a regional draw, retail we get pennies on the dollar. One thing that we need to remember. And a lot of that is just also because of where we are. We're further down the pike from Oklahoma City than Moore is. So I think that, thank you, my first yellow, that we need to think a little bit more creatively about that.
Hey, you didn't make it to red, so that's good.
You remember 2 yellows gets a red.
Okay.
Great. All right. Well, we're at question number 4. John, you're going to lead the way on this one. So, do you believe that Norman should be more proactive to compete with surrounding communities for businesses that generate sales tax or offer quality jobs? If yes, how? If no, why not?
Yes, we have to be more business friendly. I'm telling you, I deal with people that doing both. We're getting ready to open a restaurant up there in Midtown right now, Oklahoma City. And I just asked the guy, today, when, I said, I told him I was running for council down here. I said, what would you change? He says, you got to get business friendly. You got to help. He says, Edmond's tough to build and Norman's tough to build. But Edmond, you at least you know what you're standing with. He says, Norman, he says, you'll come down there, and he said the city will say, oh yeah, that looks great, do it. And then the fire department will come in and say, you can't do that. You got to change it. So you need some sort of, it's like the concierge, he was talking about, Matt was, you got to have somebody that says, don't do this or do that. You need to finalize in a kind of a simplistic set of rules, that we can go by. And if you can do that and just let them know, we want you here and we want to do it and work with you, but don't break the codes, you get, it's a two-way street, do a nice project and do it right. And let's go on and let's serve the people. So I think more business friendly is the key for everything.
Okay. Thank you, John. Matt, you're next. Would you like me to reread the question?
Could you just reread it really quick? Thanks, Tyler.
Absolutely. So we've talked about it already kind of in the first 3 questions, but so do you believe that Norman should be more proactive to compete with surrounding communities for businesses that generate sales tax or offer quality jobs?
Thanks, Tyler. And I really appreciate, John is right there coming back to the idea of a development concierge. I think that would go a long way, because one of the things is we want to bring in the right businesses, right? Big box stores that pay slightly over minimum wage or minimum wage, yes, they bring in jobs, but there are a lot of part-time jobs. How do we bring in the right kinds of businesses? And one way to do that, again, is to make the process as transparent as possible. And it should be plain as day when you go onto the website, what you need, what is required, and you should have somebody there in that office who is going to walk you through, hand by hand if necessary, through the permitting process, so that you don't, as John just mentioned, all of a sudden have the fire department or some other municipal agency saying, nope, or we have this zoning requirement. All of this should be transparent. That would make it a lot easier for businesses to want to come, make Norman far more desirable. And it also, by the way, would make us unique in this area.
Thank you, Matt. Jay, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure, Tyler.
Okay. Do you believe Norman should be more proactive to compete with surrounding communities for businesses that generate sales tax or offer quality jobs?
100% yes. So I remember you said that when you first said that question, I remembered when I was listening to the last governor's race and people were talking about this and that, about business in Oklahoma, right? And somebody mentioned how, told some story about how the governor of Texas essentially is making calls daily, has a daily call with CEOs of big companies, recruiting them to come to Texas. And in contrast to that, they alluded to how, I don't know if it was Mary Fallon or Brad Henry, I'm not going to throw either one of them under the bus, but, we had big companies calling them, setting up meetings, and they would show up to a meeting in Tulsa, and our governor forgot to show up or called and said, sorry, I can't make it. And I think a lot of what you see in Oklahoma versus what you see in Texas is kind of the result of that. And I think, Norman is the best city in the state of Oklahoma. And I think we know that, and we've known that. And I think that we have an attitude that we do know that, and you would be lucky to start a business here in some kinds of ways. I perceive that. And I think we need to flip that, and we need to pursue great companies. Between Rock Creek Road and Indian Hills Road, that is going to get developed. Somehow, some way, by someone, it's going to get developed. and we want the best possible things there. You know, we don't want to wait around and just let it just kind of slowly fill up with things that we're not proud of and companies that aren't great business partners for us, right? So I absolutely think that we need to pursue great companies to come be here.
Thank you, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On to our fifth question. And Matt, I'm going to start with you again. And this is really a follow-up to the last question about competing with our neighbors. But studies have shown that Norman has the highest development cost in regards to collection fees and also most restrictive building ordinances in the region. Some of you have already mentioned these items in your previous answers. So how do you propose to rectify this? Matt, to you.
That's a good question. And I think that is clearly something that we have to be able to answer in a creative and responsible way, because it is quite clear, yes, we do have higher costs than some other places around us, in particular. Moore is obviously the closest one, and then Edmond, for example. But a lot of that is also because of our concern for maintaining the quality of life for people around in Norman, and to prevent, shall we just say, rapid development without responsible oversight. That said, we do need to think very hard about how we are going to make things more accessible. And again, streamlining the process, the permitting process, the zoning process will go a long way to lowering costs, because one of the reasons why costs rise so exponentially in Norman is because businesses are forced to go back to the drawing board, and they're forced to reapply, and they're forced to go jump through other hoops. So we need, again, to try to make that process for businesses much simpler, so that this is a one-time and done process. You're approved. That's what we, I think, need to really do at this point.
Thank you. John, to you, same question. Studies have shown Norman has the highest development costs, connection fees, and most restrictive building ordinances in the region. How do you propose to rectify this?
That's right. When you start sending people back to the drawing board, you know, they have to go back to their investors to get more money to pay for these changes and stuff like that. So that, you know, you'll get the reputation as we don't want to build down there. We just want to, you know what we're getting into. But I think we can turn it around. I don't just work with the owners, the people that are putting the businesses in. I work out there with the subs and the groups of people that are actually doing the work, you know, every day. So I know what their problems are and what concerns they have. And I think you can actually put together a group that builds on their concerns and let them have a voice at a table, where you could also say, hey, you know, if we streamline this, we can still get the same project, you know, done at the safe, you know, that's a quality project without having to go through all the costs, you know, in different ways, you know. So there's ways you can do this with, if you get everybody involved and get everybody a seat at the table and say, what can we do to streamline this? Because a lot of times I've worked with guys, you know, different architects in Oklahoma City that want it to just look, you know, super great, you know, and want it to be done a certain way. And I said, well, you know, there's a certain way we can do this. And I'd show them a different way. I said, this is going to cost half as much, you know, if we do it this way, and you're still going to get the same look. And they're okay with that. You know what I'm saying? It's the end result. It's just as good, but, you know, a certain material may be, you know, less expensive, you know, and does the same thing. So, you know, just because it's on the drawing doesn't mean it has to be that way. So there's ways, and we can do it. And we can make Norman just as, you know, friendly and where people want to build as any place else.
Okay, thank you, John. To you, the same question. You need me to repeat it?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Scott.
It's a little long. So studies have shown Norman has the highest development cost, connection fees, and most restrictive building ordinances in the region. How do you propose to rectify this?
Yeah, it shouldn't have to be that way. It shouldn't have to be that way. And I think that I do believe that the cost is one thing, but the ease of the process is the greatest thing. You know, I do believe also that, diminishing the cost of the permit or the zoning process, we don't want that to equate to a less, the quality to be less. We don't want to lower our standards so that, when people go out there to, check the build out and check the electrical and check the foundation, we don't want to have lower standards, but it's the process. And certainly we could reduce the cost. So yeah, we should pursue that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Question number 6. Jay, you'll be up first on this one. So the city of Norman is facing considerable budget shortfalls in future fiscal years. Do you have any recommendations or opinions to help curb the potential budgetary crisis for the city?
Well, I've never had a good look at our budget. And I'm no accountant. So, as far as that goes, I just believe cities and states in our nation, with all the bureaucracy and red tape and all of the things, could greatly benefit from trimming the budget and cutting out things that are unnecessary. I could personally benefit from doing that in my house, right? So I think that we need to look at the way we spend and what we're spending on. And truthfully, I believe that currently we've got wish lists of things we'd like to do. I mean, be it whatever the project may be. We've got wish lists of things that we want to do, and we're talking about bonds for this, to issue for various things. But we really need to take better care, be better stewards of like the tax dollars that come in. And we have one of the highest sales tax rates around. And every time someone wants a pet project, we don't need to be like, well, let's kick it up another % or another 1/4% or whatever. We need to manage our finances in a better way.
Thank you, Jay. John, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The city of Norman is facing considerable budget shortfalls in future fiscal years. Do you have any recommendations or opinions to help curb the potential budgetary crisis for the city?
Thing that I would do is we probably have a bigger one. You hear different aspects on, some people say it's more than others, and there's different ways of doing it. But I would just, I look forward to the challenge. I've worked with probably 3 different companies that went from startup to worth $100 million. And it wasn't my company. I was just helping them. I took care of their metalwork needs, and they went through tough times, and they went through different times, but when you go through the tough times, you figure out a way to expand at less of a cost. And I think the city can do that. I think we can take and we can look at every penny we spend, and I think the people would like it. I think the employees would like it. You ask every employee of the city, what can we do, that can help you and help your job cost less to get done? And so you attack it from all the different angles, and you try to cut the spending, plus you try to keep all the people. You got to keep all the people, and you keep that going. And then you increase the sales tax like we were talking about. You get more business friendly, and you just attack it. And then you just spend what money we got. You've got to be fiscally responsible. You have to be, just like you would in your household. So I'm excited about it. I don't look at it, I look at it as an opportunity, not an obstacle. I don't want to be in this situation. This is Norman. I was been here since 1959, and I plan on being here. My dad bought 17 cemetery lots, and I'm going to be buried here. So I'm Norman forever. So I don't want it to be broke down and broke. So I'm for whatever it takes to get it done, and I'll work and do whatever it takes. So I'm good.
Thank you, John. Matt, the city of Norman is facing.
I got the question. I'm good.
Oh, okay, good.
Thanks. No, I appreciate it. This is a great question. I want to say I agree that it's important that we be good stewards of the people's money. But let's just talk a moment about the city and debt. First, we need to understand that debt is never something as simple as good or bad. And it needs to be understood that the city, at the same time, is not allowed to have debt financing, right? Anyway, the city is not allowed to have a negative budget, in other words. Its debt has to be in a go bond or revenue bonds backed by special funds like a utility, for example. We need to have an idea about what borrowing is, okay? What is borrowing? Borrowing is another tool that we have in our toolbox. What are we borrowing for? That is the real question. And related to that, we need to be clear, Norman has obviously very real budget constraints that have to be acknowledged and that have to be respected. However, going back to Chris's point about, educating the voters, Norman, unlike households or private businesses, has guaranteed future revenues for borrowing against which it can. So the questions are, people are talking about Norman scrambling for money, but let's be clear, Norman has a very good bond rating, which means that it has the capacity to borrow more. You can talk with Francisco about this. The questions that we have to ask ourselves when we borrow, are we making good investments in terms of quality of life and future growth? So what is debt? A mortgage, for example, is a debt. That's obvious. The real question is whether that you have the right size mortgage for the house, right? Are we borrowing for wants or for needs? Are we borrowing for a vacation to the Bahamas? Or are we borrowing to repair roads and fulfill the basic needs of the city? So I think it's really important that we understand that the debt that the city has and that the borrowing is not like the ones that we face in our households. That's a really bad metaphor. And that the city does have the resources, the city is in a good position, but we just have to be very judicious about the projects that we borrow for. Maybe rather than borrowing all at once, oops, sorry. I was looking at you.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Rather than, no, I'm just saying that we should be borrowing incrementally, we should be borrowing judiciously, and we should be deliberate about the process and what we're doing it for.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, I think if I got it right, I think, John, I'm going to start with you on this. Okay, so if elected, how will you expedite and fully fund the remaining Norman Forward projects, ensuring the will of the voters are delivered? Everybody will recall Norman Forward was passed this year, it'll be 6 years ago, with 70% of the vote. John, to you.
Well, a lot of the projects have been done, and the others, they're my understanding. I'm not like a city government expert either, but my understanding is that they were going to be paid for out of sales tax revenue, and then some of them with the bonds. But we tried to pass the bond last time, and it didn't happen with the division in the city. So if you're going to expedite it, I'm not sure now's the time to be able to expedite it without bond. You're not going to be able to do it with the sales tax until we get that back up. But there's a lot of good things that need to be done. I mean, there's so many ways to reduce the cost, I think, of the certain things. When we were talking the cost of the architectural fees just for the senior citizen center, I was looking at it and I thought, that's a lot of money, and so surely, I mean, and maybe we can utilize, you talk about a senior citizen center, maybe we don't have to have the whole thing completely finished out and let some of the seniors work in there. I'd go paint it. There's quality people retired all over Norman. I mean, really, really quality people, that can help finish stuff. And I know you can't do everything, but certain things they can do in there. So there's anything's on the table with me to help get these projects finished, whether it's out there helping with the soccer fields or whatever, so I'm good, and I want to finish them, but I want to do it in a smart way, and it takes as long as it takes, and I'm okay.
Thank you. To you, Norman Forward.
Yeah. So frankly, I think the Norman Forward projects are, financially speaking, doing relatively well. Sure, revenues are down in the fund. We know that, but we made $4 million on the library because the library came in under budget. The senior center has been resolved by hook or by crook. It might not have been done the way we wanted it to be done. I wasn't too big on using COVID funds for that, but nevertheless, that's an important project that we've been able to break ground on. Everything came in under budget, okay, except for the tennis court. So the majority of the fall off has really been made up. So Norman Ford right now is not that grossly underfunded. It's on pace to deliver what was budgeted, which is the obligation. We have to honor that to the people who voted on it. The big ticket items that still remain will happen. So I don't think there's any need, for example, to mingle a TIF with Norman Ford, for example. But I think there are a couple things that we need to be aware of, and one is that in the last referendum in August, the Ford project that got the most votes was what? It was the homeless shelter. It wasn't soccer fields or an indoor soccer facility, for example. The other thing too that we have to think about with Norman Forward, because of the nature of the projects, is maintenance. One of the things that always ends up being a hidden cost later on is maintenance. And we always end up having to go back and fix and redo projects because they're not properly maintained. So that should be something that we should be thinking hard about, because we can save ourselves money that way. So I think going forward, I think some projects that we might want to consider would be the creation of more community centers in parks. And I'll leave it at that because I got a yellow card and I've already been a bad boy.
Thank you. Jay, to you to wrap up this question, Norman Forward, how do you propose to ensure those projects are completed as supported by the voters?
Yeah, Norman Forward, I had a chance to sit down with Mike Fowler because I wanted to hear his kind of the spirit. I know Mike and Anil Galahali and, several guys got together, and the spirit, the heart of Norman Forward was, we are a community full of young families who kind of looked around at, the cities around us and just thought, you know what, like Choctaw and Blanchard and, these places have these wonderful spaces for kids to come out and do things, with the water parks and the athletic facilities and so forth. And Norman needs something like this. And I know that the families in Norman are desperate to stop playing basketball in a gym that my mom played basketball in, right? As cool as that place is, right? And I think that just because of I think it would have passed in August and we would have knocked it out had it not been that it was such kind of a hot time and people didn't want property tax to be associated with anything like that. And I think that we really just need to get the message out and pursue to unify the community and be clear about what it is that we're going to, how we're going to gather the monies for this and what it is that we aim to do. And I know that people are excited that Trey Young is donating $4 million toward the multi-sport facility. And they're excited to partner with someone like him, a hometown guy. So anyway, I think we need to unify the community and get them involved and understand what it is that we're trying to finish here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you're at question 8. Matt, you started to go down the path of one of the questions one of the responses to this question. So you're up first. So as a young professional here in Norman, it's important for quality of life to be continually improved for the citizens of this town. A few years ago, we passed Norman Ford, which was a great step towards improving our quality of life, but some of those projects are potentially underfunded for what the public ultimately wants to see. What quality of life initiatives would you propose to keep us on the leading edge in the region to make sure we attract and retain young professionals?
I think, and I started, thanks for bringing me back to that. I think going forward with Norman Ford, we already have, no pun intended, we already have a raft of projects that need to be completed, but perhaps in the next round, when we think about where we're going, I think that we need to think about building community centers and utilizing the spaces we have. I think this is low-hanging fruit here, by the way, because we have so many wonderful parks in Norman, and we need to think about building community centers in them for ways of keeping our younger population, our children, okay, places for our children to go in the summers. We think about, like, what is the third largest employer in Norman? It's NPS, Norman Public Schools. And the schools are, broadly speaking, empty in the summer. We all know that teachers have side gigs and school employees have side gigs, but that's an underutilized resource that Norman Ford and the city of Norman, broadly speaking, could be drawing on to help to develop programming centered at community centers for kids in the summer. And we could also marry it together, find a way to bridge the gap between the parks, the centers, and our youth sports, for example, to make those high quality programs that some people have access to more inclusive and more accessible to our broader population. And that would also make them far more competitive as well.
Thank you, Matt. Jay, you're next. I'll go ahead and repeat the question. So as a young professional here in Norman, it is important for quality of life to be continually improved upon for the citizens of this town. A few years ago, we passed Norman Forward, which was a great step towards improving our quality of life. But those projects are potentially underfunded for what the public will ultimately want to see. What quality of life initiatives would you propose to keep us on the leading edge in the region to make sure we attract and retain young professionals?
So, number one, I think that we just need to complete the projects at hand, and like I said, this is comical, but it's just wild that my mom played basketball in the airplane hangar that I played basketball in, and my kids play basketball in. And as fun as it is, it's like, oh my gosh, it's also mildly embarrassing, that we're still, the wind's just blowing through that place, and it's funny to me. And I think the spirit of Norman Forward was born out of that's just, we want to have, our kids to be able to have water parks and places to play sports and commune together that are an A or an A+. And, I know that they've talked about they were going to put a pool in there that was a 50-meter pool, and now it's a 25-meter pool, and we were going to have 8 ball fields. Now we're going to have 4. And I think that it's important to go for excellence in these things because, people go to more to have baseball tournaments, and then they stay in our hotels. Our hotels go from 30% occupancy to 40% occupancy because people are coming to baseball tournaments and more. It's like, wow, we just bought that space in UNP to build the multi-sport facility. And if we made that, it's what is this, a sports pun? But if we knocked that out of the park, so to speak, forgive me, we would have people coming from all over to spend money in our city. And we would have something to be proud of, and it would be fantastic. So.
Thank you, Jay. John, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
All right, perfect. So as a young professional here in Norman, it is important for quality of life to be continually improved upon for the citizens of this town. A few years ago, we passed Norman Forward, which was a great step towards improving our quality of life. But some of those projects are potentially underfunded for what the public ultimately wanted to see. What quality of life initiative would you propose to keep us on the leading edge in the region to make sure we attract and retain young professionals?
Well, I think, a lot of things. My wife loves the Westwood Water Park, and taking the granddaughters there, so and the grandkids. So that's great. It's great that's positive, but that's one thing, and then the sports complexes. I'm kind of the older generation, so Matt and Jay would know more about the younger professional, and you would too. What keeps you here? I graduated from Norman High, and a lot of the people that I graduated with left town, or it's because of the Vietnam War, they had to leave and go in the service. And so I was one of the ones that stayed here, and I've been here the whole time, and a lot of them will come back, and I appreciated that. I've tried to keep the town, here for them when they do want to come back. And so I think it's a great town, and we have a lot to attract those. I've got 3 children that are your all's age, and one stayed here, and she works for Tinker, and so she stayed here and loves the town. And then I've got a son that moved to Edmond, and he loves Edmond. And then I've got a daughter in Tulsa, and she loves Tulsa. So, I mean, I don't know that it's anything we did wrong or did bad that didn't keep them here. It's just kind of where their jobs took them. So I don't know. You all could know better what kept you here. What kept me here was the experience with the university. I grew up and got to have such neat experiences because of my parents and the university experience. I think that needs to be built on for younger kids in Norman, of people like you, to be able to do at the university. Because my family got to put the flags up around the stadium, so I didn't miss a home game for 31 straight years. And who gets to do that as a young kid? So there's just opportunities in Norman I think we need to promote. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Okay, very good. 2 more questions left. Question number 9, Jay, we're going to start with you. If elected, how will you encourage partnerships with other organizations like the Chamber, Norman Next, the university, our county, the school system, or Norman Regional Hospital, on and on and on?
I would say that I'm assuming I won't actually have an office there, but if I did, I would keep an open door, right? I mean, so when I decided I was going to run, I reached out to, Mike Fowler to talk about Norman Forward. I reached out to Richie Splitt, and he was generous with his time with me to talk about Inspire Health. And I got to hear his vision for it and his heart for it and the budget for it and the jobs that will or won't be created, and I just think that, and even this is not, well, maybe you could say as a business partner, but on Monday, I got to have a meeting with April Heipel at Food and Shelter, because these are the experts in their field, right? And we need to not, and I wanted to meet with them because I don't pretend to know the things they know. I may have an opinion about it, and I may or may not agree with their vision or direction or whatever. And even the Chamber, you guys have way more ideas and understanding on supporting and developing business than I do. And we need your feedback. And we need to not, as council members, pretend like we have the understanding and the market cornered, so to speak, on the homeless situation and local business support and how to run a hospital and how to provide healthcare in a community, even though I do provide healthcare in a community, and those kinds of things. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. John, the question to you, if elected, how will you encourage partnerships in our community?
Well, I think you have to keep what we've got going with the Chamber and expand on it and all the different ones. I'd like to expand on the More Norman Technology. It's kind of close to home. My wife worked there for 30 years, and she was in the Academic Resource Center helping all different students, get their scores up so they could make it through different programs. But I was talking with her, and I was also talking with a local businessman, and he said that all 3 of his children, he's required them to take at least 2 years at the Technology Center before they get out of high school, because he wants them graduating with a skill, period. He didn't care what it was. I want you to take 2 years there, and then before you go to college. And so I appreciated that. But my wife, I was talking with her about it after we left, and she said, yes, they have like the Cosmetology Center, that a lot of young girls would come in there and they would work, get that degree, and then they would cut hair to pay for their way through college. Even though they didn't want to do that long term, it gave them an outlet to pay for their college. And so that is a great deal. Now, you have the engineering classes out there, the pre-engineering classes that you can take just through the high school, that helps you get they kind of help you in the OU before you get there, or any engineering school you want to go to. So that helps. But they have all kinds of different classes that just aren't being utilized to my extent, that I'd like to see them, for all the different skills for people. So that's the main thing. And there's others, but I'd mainly like to see the Moore Norman be a better partner with the city.
Thank you. Matt, to you, partnerships.
I think we have to remember going forward that we need one another, that businesses require a good environment sustained by responsible infrastructure, and that it is the city's responsibility to do everything in its power to create and sustain that environment. And I think it's really important that we understand that businesses can't do it alone. Neither can the city exist without innovative businesses. So I think it's really important that we keep all the doors open, as Jay said, that we be willing to listen to one another, and we be willing to ask, what do you need from the city? And by the same token, we also be ready to ask, this is what we need from you, okay? That this is a relationship that goes both ways, and that we have to support one another, because a house divided, as Lincoln said, is one that does not stand.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, we are at the last question, y'all. Very good job. First, wanted to thank you guys for taking the time to talk to us today at this forum. What you guys are doing, very admirable, and what kind of a lead into my next question is a very hot city on both sides. So thank you guys for being willing to run for office, and good luck to each one of you. So the question is, what are your thoughts on the current caustic dialogue in our community, particularly on social media, and how will you listen and lead on this issue? And John, this goes to you.
Well, I'm kind of new to social media. I just started last year, so I've only got 1 year on the social media, and I was, in fact, I used to. I'm not a computer geek. I first started texting. I used to aggravate my friends. I'd write my message out on a piece of steel with chalk and take a picture of them, send them the picture, because I don't like to. I did 19 words a minute in high school, so I'm not your expert on this stuff. But the social media, I've just started getting into it, and it's just, there's some really hateful things that, I call it like a divorce. There's some things said during a divorce that you won't even see. It's really bad. And I encourage people, just, disagree with people, but, leave this out of it. Here's our city and here's your political views, just keep them separate, and just, we still got to come together. And I don't even know if we can pass a bond issue. The people are really, really mad at each other, and I said, just stop it. Just chill out and just let's get something done. And then you can have a party, go have a party and argue with each other, but keep it out of the local deal while we get something done here in Norman. And I don't know how you fix it, because it's toxic, and I just hope that there's some way we can find. That's the reason I'm trying to find something, anything that we can get together with, that we can pass a bond issue on, just to get our feet back wet and say, well, look here, we did something, and start small and then work our way out to that. If there's some way we can get enough people to do that, then I feel like we've had a major accomplishment.
Thank you, John. The same question to you, Matt.
Yeah.
Would you like me to
No, I'm good, Tyler. Thank you. I'm sort of like John on this one. I've had this phone for, this smartphone for a number of years. And despite my best attempts, I've just taken a smartphone and turned it into a dumb phone. I really, am quite clumsy with technology. I've learned a little bit, but still. The fact of the matter is, though, is the genie is out of the bottle. We, as much as we may, wish to have things the way they were before, it's not like Facebook or any of the social media platforms are going away. And there's always going to be people that are going to be posting very despicable things and are going to take extreme positions on both sides. And I think it's our responsibility as public figures, as people who are running for office and one day will occupy office, to be able to sift through that and to recognize what is worth listening to, what is worth taking counsel with, and what you can sort of shift aside. Because at this point, the goal of making it all go away is never going to happen. We can't police social media. That would infringe upon our civil rights. But I think it's our responsibility to engage with it, to consume it in a responsible manner, and use it as an educational opportunity, because it does pose incredible opportunities if used responsibly.
Thank you, Matt. And to you, Jay.
Yeah, people, when I've told my friends who didn't know that I was running and at this time for city council, more than once I was asked if I had lost my mind because of exactly what we're talking about. And I am experiencing this. And I tell you, just like, you have to be on social media. Now, I do believe that you can't get on social media and enlighten someone or, convince someone to not think you're a fascist or what, if they've decided that you are. However, you have to stand in the middle. Clarence Hill, the pastor of my church at Antioch in Norman, he's an African-American man, and he works on racial reconciliation around the country. And his biggest thing that he stands on is we need to be able to talk. We might not agree, but we need to be able to talk and be friends afterward. And I feel like I might be getting a master's degree in this on people's doorsteps right now. Because like I said, people want to know. They're immediately trying to put you in the most radical spot. Are you a Republican or a Democrat? Because if you're a Republican, then you storm the Capitol. And if you're a Democrat, you're a Marxist, and it's like, oh my gosh, let me talk to you. I want you to hear my heart. I want you to know that I'm listening to you. I want you to know that, hey, I put on social media today, I said, I did not vote for Joe Biden, but he is my president. I'm standing with him. I support him. And I'm praying that he would be the best president we've ever had. And people need to hear things like that because we're living in this either or, yes or no, black or white world. And people need to hear leaders in this community say, let's come together. All right.
Okay, very good. Well, we've wrapped up our 10 questions. And as we closed on that question before your closing statements, I've got to tell you, I hope that the forums we're having are an example to the community that we can dialogue, we can be cordial and adults towards each other. You gentlemen have displayed it this evening, so congratulations. Our candidates last week did the same thing, and I applaud the two of them for setting the example for all to see about how we interact and dialogue with each other. So the last thing on our agenda is just a closing comment or statement this evening. You each have a minute for that. And Matt, we'll start with you.
First, I want to say thank you so much for hosting this wonderful event tonight and giving us a chance to get together. I don't think we've had an opportunity to see one another. And it's great to see the people that you're competing with. Let me say the reason why I want to represent Ward 2 on City Council is because I believe in Norman. I believe in this community. Ward 2 is a special place. It has the potential to be a true engine of progress for the city of Norman, to lead the way in economic revitalization along the Lindsay corridor. I think we have the basic structures in place to really build community and to make this an even better city for us to live in. And those are basic. Those I will leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Jay, your minute for closing statement.
Okay. Can I just say what I said like 30 seconds ago? Is that okay?
Sure, whatever you
No, I'm kidding. I won't do that. No, also, it's Matt. It's nice to see you / meet you. Mr. Argo's daughter, Ashley, and I went from 3rd grade through 12th grade together. So I know him, and it's good to see you, Mr. Argo. Anyway, I just think that we need peacemakers and bridge builders right now. And we need that. And I think that, like, after what happened in June at City Council, I think it became clear that our City Council, to much of Norman feels like our council isn't fully representative of the entirety of Norman. And I want to be a part of that change. And I love this city. It's the best in the state. And I think it can be even better.
Thank you. John, for your closing statement.
I'm glad I'm running for Ward 2, and I'm glad the other two guys that were here tonight, and you get to meet them. And this is, to me, it's a great event. You know, I think we all share a common denominator, and we want to get the businesses back open to full extent, you know, and do what we can, you know. And so there's so many things, so much potential in Norman. I'm just, you know, I'm not going to be this a professional politician. I'm not going to be a smartest guy in the room, but I'm going to be somebody that appreciated all the things that Norman offered me and was my blessing to be able to take advantage of growing up. And I just want to be able to promote that and pass it on to the next generation if possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we stop the recording this evening, would each of you mind giving us maybe the best way for the voters to contact you if they happen to have a question, clarification, want to reach out, support you, whatever the case may be? Might you share whatever that venue would be? And John, I'll let you share with us first.
Well, my extent of social media is the Argo for Ward 2 on Facebook, and I'm not savvy enough to run a website, so you know you won't be able to get me there. But I have my own personal email, johnargosenior@yahoo.com, and you can contact me at that. You know, and so just, you know, either way, just let me know if you need something. You know, I'm there.
Very good, Matt.
All of my contact information is listed on the front page of my website, Matt for Ward 2. Go there and you can get my email address. You also have my home phone number, and you can also send me an email directly through the website.
Jay?
Yeah, my website is j4norman.com, and all my contact information is on there as well. And people have been messaging me through that, and I can respond with my personal email back to them. So.
Very good. Well, Tyler, once again, thank you for co-hosting tonight, you and Norman Next. And gentlemen, really greatly appreciate the three of you making time for the Chamber and Norman Next this evening. More importantly, thank you for being available to the voters as we talk about these issues and how we are able to move Norman forward into this next century. And I will remind everybody that we have 2 remaining forums next week. That would be Ward 3 on January the 25th and Ward 5 on January the 27th. And then our final forum will be Ward 7 on February the 1st. You can again rewatch tonight's discussion either on Facebook, either Chamber or Norman Next, or on our YouTube channel. So we look forward to seeing everybody again. Thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us. Best of luck on February the 9th. And make sure everybody stay well, be healthy, and get out and vote on the 9th of February. Take care.